specific language. Having humans speak to a computer, understand why Python is so cool, and, and you near things the reason for using Python, deciding how you can personally benefit from Python, discovering which organization use Python, find useful Python applications, comparing Python to other languages. Talking with your computer. It is about talking with your computer, creating program to talk your computer, understanding what program is, why you want to create it, or create it, considering why you want to use Python as your programming language. Having a conversation with your computer might sound like the plot of a science fiction movie. I don't remember on Enterprise on Star Trek regularly talk with their computer. In fact, the computer often talk back. However, with the rise of Apple series and other interactive software, perhaps you really don't find a conversation so unbelievable. Asking the computer for information is one thing, but providing instruction is quite another. Just considers why you want to talk instruct your computer about anything and what benefit you gain from it. You also discover the need for a special language when programming this kind of communication, and why you want to use Python to accomplish it. However, it however the main thing to get out of this chapter is that programming is simply a kind of communication that is akin to other forms of communication you already have with your computer. Understanding why you want to talk to your computer. Talking to machines may seem quite odd and at first, but it's necessary because a computer can't read your mind yet. Even if the computer did read your mind, it could still be communicating with you. Nothing can occur without an chain of information between the machine and you. Activities such as reading your email, writing about your vacation, finding the greatest gift in the world, and mobile examples of communication that occurs between a computer and you. That the computer further communicates with other machines or people to address the request. Address requests that you may simply extend. The basic idea that communication is necessary to produce any result. In most cases, the communication takes place in a manner that is nearly invisible to you unless you really think about it. For example, when you visit a chat room online, you might think you are communicating with another person. However, you are communicating with your computer. Your computer is communicating with the other person's computer through the chat room. Whatever it consists of, and the other person's computer is communicating with that person. Figure 1.1 gives you an idea of what's actually taking place. Notice the cloud in the center of configure. The cloud could contain anything, but you know that it at least contains other computers running other applications. These computers make it possible for your friend and you to chat. Now think about how easy the whole process seems where you're using the chat application, even though all these things are going on in the background. It seems as you're simply chatting with your friend and the process is invisible. Knowing that application is a form of communication. Computer communication occurs through the use of applications. Use one application to answer your email, another to purchase goods, and still another to create a presentation. An application, sometimes called an app, provides the means to express meaning ideas to the computer in a manner the computer can understand and define the tools needed to sort the data used for communication in specific ways. Data used to express the content of a presentation is different from data used to purchase a present for your model. Different from the data used to purchase a present for your model. The way you view, use, and understand the data is different for each task. So you must use different applications to interact with the data in a manner that both the computer and you can understand. It's possible to obtain application to meet just about any general need you can conceive of today. Conceits of today. Today, in fact, you probably have access to applications for which you haven't even thought about a purpose yet. Programmers have been busy creating millions of applications of all types for many years now, so it may be hard to understand what you can accomplish by creating some new method for talking with your computer to an application. The answer comes down to thinking about the data and how you want to interact with it. Some data simply isn't common enough to have attracted the attention of a programmer. Or you manage a data in a format that no application that no application currently supports. So you don't have any way to tell the computer about it unless you create a custom application to do it. Some data simply isn't common enough to have attracted the attention of the programmer, or you manage a data in format that no application currently supports, or you don't have any way to tell the computer about it unless you create a custom application to do it. The following section describes application from the perspective of working with unique data in a manner that is special. That is special in some way. For example, you may have access to a video library database, but no method to access it in a way that makes sense to you. That it is unique, and unique, and your access needs special, needs are special. So you may want to create an application that addresses both the data and your needs. Thinking about procedure you use daily. A procedure is simply a set of steps you follow to perform a task. Task. For example, when making toast, you might use a procedure like this. Get the bread button previous generator. Open the bread to take the 2 pieces of toast, remove over the toaster. Play is separated and is almost lost. Push the toaster level down to start toasting the bread. Wait for the toasting process to complete. Remove the toast from the toaster. Plate toast on a plate. Butter the toast. Your procedure might vary from one presented here, but it's unlikely that you butter the toast before placing it in on the toaster. Of course, you actually have to remove the bread from the wrapper before you toast. Play it, wrap it down into the water. Play will be on similar sources. Modern people never actually think about the procedure when making toast. Why you do a procedure like this? Even though you don't think about it. Computer can perform tasks without a procedure. You must tell the computer what steps to perform, the order in which to perform them, and any exceptions to the rule that could cause failure. All this information and more appears within an application. In short, an application is simply written procedure that you use to tell the computer what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Because you've been using procedure all your life, all you really need to do is apply the knowledge. To do is apply the knowledge you already possess. To what a computer needs to know about specific tasks. Specific tasks. When writing procedure down, when I were in grade school, our teacher asked us to write a paper about making toast. After we returned in our papers, she wrote in the toast and some log of bread. Its paper were read and demonstrated. None of our procedures were as expected, but their own procedure humorous results. In my case, I forgot to tell the teacher to remove the bread from the wrapper, so she dutifully tried to stop the piece of bread, wrapped it all into the toaster. The lesson stuck with me in writing about procedures can be quite hard because we know precisely what we want to do, but often we step out. We assume that the other version also knows precisely what we want to do. Oh yeah, it's true. Many experiences in life revolve around procedures. Think about the checklist used by pilots before plane takeoff. Plane takes off. Without a good procedures, the plane could crash. Learning to write a read procedure takes time, but it's doable. You may have to try several times before you get a procedure that works completely, but eventually you can create one. Writing procedures down isn't really sufficient, though. You also need to to test, to test. You also need to test the procedure by using someone who isn't familiar with the task involved when working with computers. The computers, the computer is your perfect test. The computer is your perfect test subject. Seeing application as being like any other procedure. A computer acts like the rate school teacher in my example. In the previous section, when you write an application, you are writing a procedure that defines a series of steps that the computer should perform to accomplish what you expected. The computer won't know what you mean or does you intended for it to perform certain tasks automatically. The only thing the computer knows is that you have provided it with a specific procedure and it needs to be performed that procedure. Yeah, that's true. Understand that computers take things literally, literally, literally. People eventually get used to the procedures you created. You create. They automatically compensate for deficiencies. For deficiency, for deficiency in your procedure or make notes about things that you left out. Oh yeah. In other words, people compensate for problems with the procedures that you write. When you begin writing computer programs, you will you you will you will get frustrated because computers perform tasks precisely and read your instruction literally. For example, if you tell the computer that a certain value should equal 5, the computer look for value exactly 5. A human may see 4.9 and know that's the value good enough. But the computer doesn't think that way. It sees a value of 49 and decides that it doesn't equal 5 exactly. In short, computers are inflexible and intuitive, intuitive, and unimaginative. When you write a procedure for a computer, the computer does precisely as you ask absolutely every time and never modify your procedure and decide what does you really mean for it to do something else. Defining what an application is. As previously mentioned, applications provide the means to define express human ideas in a manner that a computer can understand. To accomplish this goal, the application relies on one or more procedures that tell the computer how to perform the tasks related to the manipulation of data and its presentation. What you see on screen is the text from your own word processor. But to see that information, the computer requires procedures for retrieving the data from the disk, yeah, putting it into a form you can understand, and then presenting it to you. The following section define the specific of an application in more detail, understanding that computers use specific spatial language. Human language is complex and difficult to understand. Even applications such as Siri have serious limits in understanding what you are saying. Over the years, computers have gained the capability to input human speak as data and to understand certain spoken words as commands. But, but computers still don't quite understand human speech to any significant degree. The difficulty of human speech is exemplified in the way lower word. When you read legalize, 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 it appears at a repressed observer. However, the goal is to state ideas and concepts in a way that is open to interpretation. Lower seldom success in meeting their objective precisely because human speech is imprecise, imprecise. Given that you know for previous section of this chapter, computer could never rely on human speech to understand the procedure you write. Computer would think literally, so you would end up with completely unpredictable results if you were to use human language to write an application. That's why humans use special languages or languages to communicate with computers. These These special languages make it possible to write procedures that both specific and completely understandable by both humans and computers. Computers computers don't actually speak any language. They use binary codes to flip switches internally to perform math calculation. Computers don't even understand letter; they understand only numbers. A special application turns the computer's specific language used to write procedures into binary codes. For purposes of this book, purposes For purposes of this book, you really don't need to worry too much about the low-level specifics how computers work at the binary level. However, it's interesting to know that computers speak math and numbers, not really a language at all. Having humans speak to the computer is important to keep the purpose of an application in mind as you write it. An application is there to have humans speak to the computer in a certain way. Every application works with some type data that is input, stored, manipulated, and output, so that the human using the application obtain a desired result, whether the application is again or expressive. The basic idea is the same. Computers work with data provided by humans to obtain a desired result. When you create an application, you're providing a new method for humans to speak to the computer. The new approach you create will make it possible for other humans to view data in new ways. The communication between human and computers should be easy enough that the application actually disappear from view. What is that? applications you've you have you've ha- you you've you 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 have applications you have used in the past. The best applications are the ones that let you focus on whatever data you're interacting with. For example, a game application is considered immersive only if you can focus on the planet you're trying to save or ship you're trying to fly rather than application that lets you do these things these these do these things. One of the best ways to start thinking about how you want to create an application is to look at the way other create people create applications. Writing down that you like or dislike about all the applications is a useful way to start discovering how you want applications to look and work. Here's some questions you can ask you can ask yourself as you work with the applications. What do I find distracting about the application? Which features were easy to use? Which feature more hard to use? How these applications make it easy to interact with my data? How would I make the data easier to work with? What do I hope to achieve my application that this application doesn't provide? Professional developer ask many other questions as part of creating an application, but the average tester question before they begin to help you think about qualifications and a mean to help humans speak with the computers. If you've ever found yourself frustrated by an application you use, you already know how other people will feel if you don't ask the appropriate questions. When you create your application, communication is the most important element of any application you create. You can also start to think about the ways in which you work, starting writing procedures for the things you do. It's a good idea to take the process one step at a time and write everything you can think of about that step. When you get finish finished, ask someone else to try your procedure to see how it actually works. You might be surprised to learn that even with a lot of effort, you can easily forget to include steps. The worst application usually begins with a programmer who doesn't know what the application is supposed to do, what's special, what needs its access, or how is it for. When you decide to create an application, make sure that you know why you're creating it and what you hope to achieve. Just having a plan in place really helps make programming fun. You can work on your new application and see your goals to accomplishes, accomplishes, accomplished, accomplished one at a time until you have completed application and use and show off to your friends. Wow. Understand what's Python is so cool. Many programming languages are available today. In fact, a student can spend an entire semester in college in college studying computer languages and still not hear about them all. It's just that during my college days, you think that programmers would be happy with all these programming languages and just choose one to talk to the computer, but they keep inventing more. Grammar keep Grammars keep creating new languages for good reason. Each language has something special to offer, something it does exceptionally well. In addition, as computer technology evolves, so do the programming languages to keep keep up. Because creating an application is all about efficient communication. Many programmers now know multiple programming languages so that they can choose just the right language for particular task. One language might work better to obtain data from database, and other might create user interface elements especially well. And with every other programming language, Python does something exceptionally well, and you need to know what they are before you begin using it. You may be amazed by really cool things you can do with Python, knowing the programming language strengths and with strength, language, languages, language, language, language strength and wellness has you use it better as well as avoid frustration by not using the language for things it doesn't do well. The following sessions have you make the sorts of design sessions about Python. And I think the reason for using Python. Most programming languages are created with specific goal in mind. These goals have defined the language characteristics and determine what you can do with the language. There really isn't any way to create a programming language that does everything because people have conflicting goals in this when creating applications. When it comes to Python, the main objective were to create a programming language that would make programmers efficient and productive. With that in mind, here are the reason that you want to use Python when creating an application. Less application development time. Code is usually 2 to 10 times shorter than comparable code written in languages like C and C++ and Java, which means that you spend less time writing your application and more time using it. Ease of reading. A programming language is like any other language. You need to be able to read it to understand what it does. Python code tends to be easier to read than the code written in other languages, which means you spend less time interpreting it and more time making essential changes. Reduced learning time. The creators of Python wanted to make a programming language with fewer rules, 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 rules that make the language hard to learn. After all, programmers want to create applications, not learn obscure good. And difficult languages. It's important to rely on the pattern in popular language. It's not the most popular language out there. In fact, the current rank 8th on sites such as TOP, an organization that tracks user statistics. Obtaining a top Python is a good choice, but C and C++, Java, for Visual Basic would be better choices. Make sure you choose a language you like and one that will address your application development needs, but also choose the one on the basic of what you intend to accomplish. Python were the language of the year in both 2007 and 2010. 2010 and has ranked 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 as high as the fourth most popular language in February 2011. So really, it's good choice. Looking for a job not necessarily the best choice. However, it might surprise you to know that many colleges use Python to teach courses and it's becoming popular. Yeah, almost. Deciding how can personally benefit from Python. Ultimately, you can use any programming language to write any sort of application you want. If you use the wrong programming language for the job, the results will be slow, error, wrong, bug reading, wrong, reading. And you absolutely had it, but you can get the job done. Of course, most of us would rather avoid horribly, horribly painful experiences. So it's important to know that what sorts of applications people typically use Python to create. Here's a list of the most common use of Python. Other people do use it for other purposes. Creating raw application example. Developers often need to create a prototype, a raw, a raw, what a raw application examples. Developers often, 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 often often need to create a prototype, a browse example of application before getting a resources to create the actual application. Python emphasizes the root activity so you can use it to create prototype of an application quickly. Treating browser-based application, even though JavaScript is probably the most popular language used for browser-based application scripting, Python is close second. Python offers function that JavaScript doesn't provide. Its high efficiency makes it possible to create browser-based application faster, a real plus in today's fast-paced world. Designing mathematics, scientific, and engineering applications. Interestingly enough, Python provides access to some really cool libraries that make it easier to create math, scientific, and engineering applications. The two most popular libraries are NumPy. These libraries greatly reduce the time you spend writing specialized code to perform common math, scientific, and engineering tasks. Working with XML, the extensible markup language, in the basis of most data storage is on the internet and many desktop applications today. Unlike most languages, the way XML is just sort of both both depth on Python Max is a first-class citizen. If you need to work with a web service, the main method for changing information on the internet or an XML-intensive application, Python is a choice. Interactive databases. Business relies heavily on databases. Python isn't quite a query language, like structured query language or language integrated query, but it does does do a great job of interacting with databases. It makes creating connection and manipulating data relatively painless. Developing user interfaces. Python isn't like some language like C, where you have a built-in designer and can drag and drop items from a toolbar into a user interface. However, it does have an extensive array of graphical user interface framework extensions that make graphics a lot easier to create. Some of the frameworks do code come with designer that make the user interface creation process easier. The point is the point is that Python isn't devoted to just one method of creating user interface. You can use the method that best suits your needs. Discovering which organization use Python. Python is really quite good at the tasks that it was designed to perform. In fact, that's why a lot of large organizations use Python to perform at least some application creation development tasks. You want a programming language that has good support from these large organizations, because these organizations tend to spend money to make the language better. Here are a list of the large organizations that use Python the most. Okay. There are just a few of many organizations use Python intensively. You can find a more complete list of organizations. The number of success stories has become so large that even the list probably isn't complete. The people supporting it have had to create categories to better organize it. For a useful Python application, you must have an application written in Python sitting on your machine right now and not even know it. Python is used in a vast array of applications on the market today. Applications range from utilities that run at the console to full-fledged cam suites. Some applications run on mobile devices, while others run on the large services employed by enterprises. In short, there's no limit to what you can do with Python, but it really does have have but it really does help to see what others have done. You can find a number of places online that list applications written in Python, but the best place to look is bad place to look is the Python programmer. You also want to know that Python development tools are available to make your easier. Life easier. A development tool provides some level of automation in writing procedures needed to tell the computer what to do. Having more development tools means that you have to perform less work in order to obtain a working application. Developers love to say their lists of favorite tools, but you can find a great list of tools broken into categories. Of course, this chapter describes a number of tools as well, such as NumPy and SciPy, to scientific libraries. The remainder of both lists a new other tools. Make sure that you copy down your favorite tools for later. Comparing Python other language. Comparing language is somehow dangerous because the selection of language is just as much a matter of taste and personal reference as it is any sort of quantifiable scientific fact. So before I'm tackled, so before I'm attacked by the rabbit rabbit protectors of languages develop it's important to realize that I also use a number of languages and find at least some level of overlap among them, or there's no best language in the world, simply the language that would best for particular application. With this idea in mind, the following sections provide an overview comparing Python to other languages. A lot of people claim that Microsoft simply copied Java to create C. That said, C doesn't have some advantage and disadvantages when compared to Java. The main disputed intent behind C to create a better kind of C language, one that's easier to learn and use. However, we're here to talk about C and Python. When compared to C, Python has these advantages: significantly easier to learn, smaller, more concise code, support fully as an open source, better multi-platform support, easy allow use of multiple development environment, easier to maintain using C, and C's. Scientific and engineering support. For years, programmers looked for a language that they could use to write an application just once and have it run anywhere. Java is designed to work well on any platform. It relies on some tricks that you discover later in the book to accomplish this magic. Accomplish this magic. For now, all you really need to know is that Java was also successful at running well everywhere that other languages have sought to emulate it. So Python has some important advantages over Java, showing the solid significantly smaller code and available storage box in computer memory that can hold different kinds of data by application needs while running faster development tasks. In your own copy of Python